come on, restream. Awesome. Okay, we're live on TikTok, or YouTube and Twitch. I'll go live here. Sorry, let me mute that real quick. All right. So we are live with the quote-unquote famed podcast now. I had my first weird interaction today. I was working today, and one of my colleagues messaged me. He was like, "Hey, I was on YouTube earlier, and one of your videos came across," and I was like, "Oh no!" And I was like, he was like, "I didn't know you posted shorts," and I was like, "I didn't know you knew either." And dude, I was sitting there and like I just had a video the other day. Like half of my content is like satire, and I was describing how 65 thou is actually read .boobs 65. It was just to drive comments, and then there was a whole other thing. I've had multiple immature videos I posted recently, and I'm like, those are all what's in the algorithm right now, man. I really hope you didn't see those. So,
yeah, that's the other face of being famous, right?
Oh, famous, yeah, famous. Me and all my 19,000 followers.
That's not bad at all, man. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, but
something to be proud of for sure.
Yeah, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are here.
What's up, boys?
Ryan, thank you for joining. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm actually gonna bump your guys' audio up a little bit more. We got Christian in today, and Christian, just in case you, it sounds like you may not recognize everybody. I know it's been a while since you've been in Indy, but just quick reminder. Mitchell, I had the white Gen 2 Mazda for a little bit. I think I talked to you outside of like hanging out with Luke and all those guys at the Circle City Mazda group meet, but I only had my Mazda for like 6 months.
Yeah, no, I know that. And then you had the Camaro, and then after that we hung out with Jacob and those guys, and Luke, so yeah, of course.
Yeah, so most of the time, go ahead.
No, I know you have the NC Miata now, so
yes.
I know your line of cars, if you may.
Yeah, I've been waiting on an NC front splitter from RGR. However, my plans with cars may be changing, which we could talk about in a little bit. I might need some RX-8 parts rolling out of RGR.
Oh, that sounds really cool. I really like the way RX-8 drives. They get a lot of hate, but it's a fantastic chassis. Like it is.
Yeah, I've read a lot of great things, and I think I'm just going to avoid the whole needing an engine rebuild all the time by just buying one that's been dead and rebuilding it immediately. So that's a whole other conversation. And then a quick reminder for everybody, if anybody's listening, we got Ryan as well. So Ryan, you want to say hi?
What's up, guys?
Yeah, Ryan also has an NB Miata hiding behind the curtains that he is scared to take to the racetrack. Isn't that right, Ryan?
There we go.
Nice, very nice.
Ryan, can you confirm that you are afraid to take the NB to the racetrack?
I am so afraid.
Yeah, so
I'm probably not gonna do it. I'm probably just gonna bail out.
Actually, I just canceled mine as well. So.
I just canceled. Yeah.
So Christian, we've been excited. I've been running a bunch of autocross and putting off track days, and I'm officially running my first one September 21st in the NC. And then it sounds like I've got you convinced, Ryan. I guess you just went and bought tires to go run.
I went and bought tires. I'm going.
All right.
So
Christian, if you're trying to bring the Mazda Speed up here to run with another Mazda Speed up in Michigan, it should be a short drive away from you.
So,
oh my God, oof.
Christian, I've met you in person before. It's been a long time, but I had the silver Mazda Speed 3 that I was building the motor for.
Yeah, I think we were talking about it, and yes, I'm.
Yeah, you and I were in Brown County at one of the bars, and we were talking about it. I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I have a Mazda Speed Miata now.
Yeah, me too. It's an 04 or 05?
It's an 04.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gray.
How many miles you got on that one?
102,000.
Nice. That's not too bad.
How about yours?
36 right now.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I got it with 24, And I actually have taken it to Homestead, to Daytona, to Sebring. When PBIR was a track that is right here, really, where I live, but they sadly got shut down. I took it there, so it's been getting through its paces, ever since I got it. Actually, I've owned it like 2.5 years, almost 3 now, and I put, you know, 36 from 24. That is 12,000 miles on it. So I drive it. I enjoy it. I don't really drive it every day. I just drive it over the weekends, really. But I just keep on going. It's just a lot of fun.
Well,
Nice.
And I took it to the Miatas of the Dragon not that long ago to Italy Dragon, and it was amazing. Highly recommend it if you guys never been.
What's funny is there's a guy local to me. He's got an NC, and we were talking, and he told me about it. And I almost tried to go down there just spontaneously, and
It's not that
unfortunately,
far from you. Yeah, it's like
No.
6 hours.
yeah, unfortunately with a 6-month-old baby and already running, I think I'll have 15 autocross events this year in the Miata.
Oh, that's
yeah,
what
keeps us a little busy. But so yeah. So speaking of your Mazda Speed, what we haven't really covered is, Christian, you are the owner, if I'm understanding, and founder of RGR Design.
Yeah. It's a little room in my house with a couple of shelves. It's essentially all the company really is. I mean, I just, because of what I do for a living, I have really good manufacturing contacts. More stuff I do it myself, or the people that work with me at Renntech, or I have people here in the US in other places that make stuff for me. I don't really make anything in house myself, but I design everything in house. I 3D print everything in house, and I test fit and do everything in house, and then I do my own CFD. I have my own CAD software, and then I just send the CAD drawings and whatever to get made. I get it myself, and then out it goes.
Yeah. By the way, just a little warning: if you see me picking up my phone, I'm actually writing down notes of topics I want to come back to. So forgive me, I'm not texting and playing around my phone. I'm actually writing down things.
Yeah.
So currently do you still work at Renntech? Because I know, if I remember correctly, it says that you used to be a design lead down at Renntech. I didn't realize you were that high up.
I'm the head of engineering. I run all their engineering operations for Renntech. I mean, we have offices also in the Middle East and here in the US. So I run engineering for all of it essentially. So yeah, we actually had a little divisions in Europe, but the guy that run it over there is no longer with us, let's say. So right now we don't really have anything. We have dealers in Europe, but not like an office per se. But yeah, now we have expanded into the classics. These days, the Mercedes community, I guess, they have started to take an interest in the old cars, kind of like what happened with Porsche like
Right.
10, 15 years ago. So those cars were, I have this guy, is about our age. He got one of these old AMG, like pre-merger AMGs, so before it was part of Mercedes, out of a guy's shop for like $10,000,
Wow.
and that was 12 years ago when he was still like in high school, and that car is now worth $750,000. So these cars are just going up insane, and my boss, the owner of Renntech, who still works with me and every day, he was one of the first people to work at an AMG when it became its own company in the late 70s. And he eventually became the AMG technical director and director of AMG USA. So he's the one that handled that Hammer project, that was the first sedan ever to hit 300 kilometers an hour, 190 miles an hour, 186 miles an hour. And that car with that specific engine is what made AMG what it is today. And he was there when Mercedes bought AMG. So when that happened, he opened Renntech to kind of keep doing what AMG used to do back in the day, and that's kind of where we are today. So yeah.
That's incredible. By the way,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've realized this, but you're living like every car enthusiast engineer's dream. Like, how many? I mean, we know a lot of people that have went into the performance industry after school, and I know a couple people that I've met a couple people now that kind of work in NASCAR, which is cool. But nobody that now was also able to start their own performance shop, doing legitimate work with supported, statistics behind their products. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean,
Christian, you got a motorsports degree, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I first went for motorsports, and then I ended up actually with mechanical engineering. So I'm not from the U.S. I'm from Panama, so there was always the question if you can stay. And then when I was here, like staying became harder, you know. So then I just out of safety, I ended up going for mechanical engineering, but I did take more sports, and I mean I took the important classes, I guess, like vehicle dynamics, aero, things like that. But I took mechanical engineering because it all depended on how everything went. But thankfully it worked out, you know. I'm this close to getting my residence right now, so far so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that continues going well. I know I've got a couple buddies that have become U.S. residents, and it sounds like a really tough process, especially for.
It is. It is. It
Yeah.
is a lot of process and a lot of money. Like it's,
Really?
you know, you really have to be well into the middle class, I guess, to be even able to do it. You know.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah. Otherwise, it's not really happening. Like so, so yeah. Like it's really hard. But I'm lucky that it also requires a company to sponsor you. You know, and also that is an expense for them as well. So you know the idea, because the idea is to discourage to hire somebody like me, because it will be easier to hire American, right? Which makes sense. You know, you wanna like take care of your own people first, but it's not easy, you know. So it makes things a little bit hard. But
Right.
I was really lucky that, well, Harmut, the owner of Renntech, is German himself, and he has also a pretty cool story of how he got his residence. But yeah, but he has helped me out a lot, and I'm very grateful for that. So another good point of working at Renntech,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, is- what exactly does Renntech do down there in Florida? Is that like just the research and development?
No, Renntech. I mean, Renntech is like Brabus. I don't know if you know Brabus.
Familiar with Brabus, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like Nismo or something like that. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that. So Harmut has been working in close relation with, because of that deal between AMG and Mercedes back in the 90s. We do special projects for Mercedes sometimes. You know, like they come to us to things they don't really want to do, and we do it for them, like SEMA bills and you know like obscure projects that not we cannot really discuss.
Right.
So things like that. But mostly the over here, like the biggest thing that we do is aftermarket parts for Mercedes, specifically Mercedes, all kinds of Mercedes essentially. Of course, we focus on the performance variants. Some cars we dive into more regular versions of it, but mainly AMGs. So we do things like aero parts, we do wheels, we do brakes, we do engine wheels, we do turbos, we do exhaust systems. Particularly for the older cars, for the V12s, for example, we used to do, and we are just restarting to do again, conversions from 6 liters to 7.4 and 7.6 liters V12s. And then we also do like we do the internal like crankshaft, rods, pistons, valves, you know, intake manifolds, headers, whatever the customer wants. And then for the old V8s, we also did 5 liter to 6 liter conversions. And then we are one of 3 places in the world that can can work on the old AMG heads that make those old AMGs of the 80s go really fast.
Mhm.
And the only place in the world other than the company that made the heads, that was called HWA, that is still owned by one of the founders of AMG, to actually have parts for those heads. And I something that I personally did, I designed those parts. Because, you know, they make like 100 sets of those heads. They are valuable, right now they're probably like 100K a set, if you can find them.
Oh,
So,
wow.
oh yeah, they are very because those heads transform a car worth from $50,000 to 500,000, 750,000. If they don't make that much power, they are not great, but they just a really historic part of the Mercedes story. Extremely valuable, extremely rare. And then, so we actually have a couple sets of work still, but you know, you cannot go to AutoZone and get those gaskets. So then, you know, I've been doing in the last 2 years, I've been doing pistons for those engines. I've been doing valve guides for those engines, new valves, new head gaskets, every seal you can imagine on that freaking thing, and you know, new things to help them seal better because they have a couple sealing problems. So you know, we can take care of those customers now that these cars are going to the moon. So yeah.
Nice. So I have one question for you. I know you've owned several Miatas. What is the single most effective upgrade you found for the Mazda Speed Miata?
Well, I will say that
For
the single
track
most
days.
is tires.
Tires?
And that's not
Well,
only for Miatas, really. It's for every car. Tires are
Right.
the most important number one component of any car. From there, I will say that the factory suspension is pretty good, you know, but it still rolls a lot, you know. And then I
Mm-hmm.
will say that coilovers will be my next spend, because well, and then I will say power, just because not because the power is precisely bad, it's just the delivery is pretty terrible because of the way it comes
That's
from the
pretty.
factory.
Mine mine has quite a bit of lag. It's got an aftermarket intercooler and intake system, turbo stock,
You got the
exhaust
little
has.
enchilada by any chance?
What's that?
The little enchilada from Flying Miata, do you have that?
I believe I do. Yes.
Yeah. So
Um.
the issue with that, and my car, I still have my stock ECU and all that, is because the tune from the factory is laggy on purpose, because when they were making that car they were trying to not making much power because the NC was just coming out, so that car has 178 horsepower and the NC came out with 171.
Quit laughing, Mitch.
Yeah, and then they didn't want to like overshadow that, so they kind of hold it back. So if
Okay.
you actually, I talk to people in Australia because I'm trying to sell their tunes, and I'm working something out with them. I've seen the map, and they literally just hold the fuel until like you reach out like really high in the RPM range, and then that's why you feel like a little kick, and then you feel like a better kick after on that car.
So
You
is
know,
that
just
why
Yeah.
that little turbo is so laggy down low?
yeah, it's all in the tune. So as soon
The
as you
tune.
if you change the tune, it will behave the way it's supposed to behave, like no
So
problem.
Interesting.
I have a manual boost controller on my Mitch.
Yeah,
I
me
put
too.
it on there and it really helped it out,
Interesting. I'd
spooling
like
up
to try that.
lower RPM.
Because when I got
Yeah, I
that tune on my
Mine
Jetta,
mine has a lot of mods on it. It's got a bigger intercooler, aftermarket intake system. It's running speed density, stock turbo, full exhaust, and an MS3 Pro ECU. But
nice.
it's on a base map, so I gotta get it tuned. But
Yeah, no, like I have, my car doesn't have a tune. It just has, you know, the downpipe, the exhaust, the intake, the intercooler. I have a manual boost controller, and I want to say that's it engine wise. So I put it on the dyno at Renntech, and I was putting like 190 something to the wheels. So you
pretty
know,
good.
with injectors and like what you have, you should be looking, for example, like a 220. You know, I've seen people get 230 out of it. The issue at that point is become the turbo a little bit. You know,
Hmm.
you can push it for a little bit more, but the turbo won't really hold it. So, then if you want to make 250, just like a little turbo upgrade is all you need. But you know that can be expensive, of course. But 220 is 100% doable with what you have and injectors. You
Yeah,
know.
for now I'm just completely ignoring power, and I got tires, I'm getting brakes, and I'm going to the track.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like in shorter tracks, when I go to Homestead, for example, and when I went to PBIR, I mean, I had no problem keeping up with for most things. You know, like cars from the same era, like older 911s, like 996s, and C5s and things like that. You know, more than perfectly happy at the track with those cars. You know, so it's only a Daytona where you just get absolutely embarrassed on the banking. But you know that's just the way it
Yeah.
is.
yeah,
So
it feels
How do you like how do you like Florida?
it's flat. It's very flat.
Yeah.
So I don't like that part. And
Flatter
I
than
don't.
Indiana?
right.
Oh hell, man! Indiana looks like freaking Colorado next to Florida.
Oh
Insane.
boy.
Yeah, you know I
Yeah.
go where I come from is pretty. It's a pretty hilly country. Like there's mountains everywhere.
Panama?
And I thought and I thought yes, and I thought
Yep.
Indiana was really bad. You know, and then I came here. It's like it's somehow 10, 20 times worse. There's a lot of sand, which I absolutely hate. But I guess the good part is that hurricanes are terrible too. You always have to be like scared about that. You know, if you like your cars and then the flooding and the hurricanes, always the risk that something can happen. But
Well,
other than that, it's not too bad. I
you
would
don't have
Do
to
you
say.
worry
live in the
about
southern
rust.
or the northern part?
I'm south, very south, and very
South.
close to the water. I'm
Okay.
like less than a mile from the sea. Like I
Oh
can,
wow.
yeah, I'm really close, really close. And
Cool.
there's a port like right next to me essentially. So yeah, not that part I don't like. But it's, you know, you can always drive your car all year long. You can always work on it all year long, and that part is pretty neat. Although you know here the sun is so harsh on paint, for example, that you cannot really have a car to drive like nice car to drive all year because there's a high likelihood that it's gonna destroy your paint.
Oh,
You know. So you
Christian,
still need a Vito.
you were towing your Miata with a Dodge Durango. Those don't exist here anymore. They're all rotten through.
Mine is pristine, man. Like you could eat off under the car. The car never left Florida.
You have a Durango?
I have an '04, no, '04. Yeah, I want to say it's an '04. It's last year, and I know this because this year has a 5-speed automatic that apparently was a 1 year only thing, which is a lot better than the 4-speed, and also it has disc brakes on the rear, and which were really helpful when I went to tell the driver.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like 16, 17 hours on the way there, 17 hours on the way down. And I mean, I didn't trust the car, to be honest. I thought something was gonna happen, but no, nothing happened, and I still drive it to work. So the car has been just so good to me.
Yeah,
I have not seen a first-gen Durango for
They don't
years.
exist here. Those kind of vehicles just don't exist.
Yeah.
Anything from like 2005 and onwards is just, it's a nightmare. I just bought a 2011 Xterra Pro 4X and I was nervous. And I got lucky. It's still got some surface rust here and there, but nothing serious at all to the point where it can be cleaned up. But
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, no, that car is good. It has what you want here is AC. You need AC.
that's fair.
And yeah, it has good AC, and the interior is good. The engine is good. It's a V8. It's a 4.7 V8. It can tow things, and the condition is pretty nice. So as good as you can get probably for one of those Durangos. So not
Yeah,
bad.
for an old Dodge.
Absolutely, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So how was the Tail of the Dragon trip? I mean, the Miata's on the Dragon.
It was my first time going, so I didn't know what to expect. But everybody was extremely nice. They were you could see everything from the worst Miatas you can possibly imagine. Like how is that thing moving? To things like a guy that had a manifold that was as tall as the car, I guess. With twin turbos.
Oh,
The
Wow.
insanest of the insane to the craziest of the crazies, the low of the lowest. I mean, there was a case swaps, LFX swaps, the Jaguar V8, V6 swaps, rotary Miatas. I mean, whatever you want, it was there. All kinds for all tastes. What was pretty cool to me is that they have like a vendors row, and it was my first time there, but also like Flying Miata had my parts and they had them in display, right? And they had like a little description of my company and they had catalogs with my things in it. So that was pretty freaking awesome to see. There was another company called Track Per Performance owned by a good friend of mine here in South Florida that he also has, a day job and his own business, and he's been going there for a couple of years, and he also had my parts on there, and I took some parts for myself to sell, and I was able to meet a lot of people. A lot of people seem to have known me. They saw the sticker of the car, they saw the car, and they can talk to me. So that was really cool. To not be fully unknown, I guess, and to see my parts there, have a presence. Even though I didn't have my own booth or anything like that, and just get to drive. We had like, you go there and you can feel pretty intimidated because the roads are pretty insane and they're
Yes.
pretty dangerous too. And then you know that there is people that drive really fast.
Yeah.
And you always have to think, can you keep up with those guys or the guys behind you? So you gotta respect your limits, but also respect there are people that want you to get out of the way. But I was pretty happy that I was able to keep up pretty well with most people, and I had my fair share of fun and everybody was safe and it was a good time. So I really highly recommend it, and I want to go next year for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely think I'm going to have to add that to my calendar. That sounds like a blast, especially just seeing all the different cars. Well, I guess I may not own a Miata next year, so we'll see. Ryan, I'll
Yeah.
take yours if yours does. Well, yours isn't going to sell. You've tried to sell for too long.
yeah, it's been for sale for months.
Okay, I'll just rent yours next year.
Mostly
Thank you.
because I don't need to sell it and I'm not budging on price, but
That's fair.
Yep.
So, Christian, I've got a couple of little questions here. Well, a handful of questions here to ask, but there's one that I've been waiting on. How did you start your own company? I mean, obviously, I know you have contacts due to working at Renntech. I can see how that would be a huge help. But talk to me. How does this idea come
first of
about?
all, what's your web address for your website for RGR?
It is www.rgr.engineering. There's no .com, just .engineering, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So well, before working at Renntech, I will say that the job that I had before Renntech was even cooler somehow. It was a company called Red Sun Performance Engineering in Indianapolis. So what we did there, we did continuation cars for Porsche, and like the old race cars, right? So we worked mainly on like vintage Indy cars. We did like obscure projects for the Lara, things like that. We did also like we work in F1 cars, a lot of all F1 cars, Le Mans prototypes, Porsche's 934s, 962s, 935s, and we did everything from any suspension components in those cars to wings. The last project I worked on where I was there was a full engine, like not internals, like the entire thing, the block, the heads, the crankshaft, the cams. And it was a 5-liter flat six. The biggest flat six engine that Porsche ever made was a 4. Well, anybody actually. Porsche never made anything more bigger than a 4-liter, but a couple of people have built 4.1. But the problem with those engines is that the block, which is really a case, more like a bike, doesn't allow for a bigger crankshaft because of the position of the oil pump. So what it had, and also the spacing between the cylinders, you need also enough space to get air between them because they are air cooled. So what I had to do is I got to scan the we got scanned the case of one, and then I spliced it and I made it wider and longer to allow for more displacement. And I actually then when I got the volume, which was 4.9 liters, 4.97 liters, so 5 liters, then I went reverse engineer the flow of a 426 Hemi head from a sprint car. There's another company called it's called Autocraft down in Indianapolis, also in Indy, and they do in Autocraft they do not Autocraft, Motocraft. They do Ferrari engines and sprint car engines. That's the two things they do. It's kind of a weird combo, and they have their own dyno and everything, and Renntech we dyno the engines there. So they landed us a 426 Hemi head, and then I matched the port sizes and developed the runners and all that kind of stuff to get the volume that we needed, the CFMs. And then the goal was to make 650 horsepower out of that 5-liter.
NA?
It was billet engine, NA, yes, billet. The engine got finished because I moved to Florida, and then the only thing left was the cam carrier, because where the cam goes is a separate thing from the head on the 911s. And then I didn't finish that. I got finished by the people there. But yeah, so I got a lot of contacts there and a lot of experience designing really complicated stuff, because we did more complicated things. We did the entire cars. We did the chassis, we did the engines. In Renntech, we do more like Mercedes makes the car, we make them better. Over there we made everything. So that really gave me, I guess, the confidence, in my abilities to do complicated things. And then at Renntech, they got more polished, because working on race cars is different than working on road cars.
Right.
It's a completely different challenge, So, and I wanted to do that, and that's part of the reason why I went to Renntech, because first, it's a way bigger market. It's way more useful to work in regular cars than it is to work just in race cars. But also, it brings a more stable job and all that kind of stuff. And, well, it gives you other tricks, It teaches you other things. And that eventually, when I felt like got enough knowledge of the industry and enough experience, I felt, well, I could take a little bit of what I learned, what I was doing. Because when I was at Redstone 2, I did a little bit of racing, I went out, traveled with sports cars team and in Indy teams as well. So I had that experience too as well. And I said, I'm going to take everything that I learned doing the racing thing and combine it with the things I know from Renntech. And then I always wanted to, I had ideas for making Miatas better, I guess. And I just decided one day to, work on a website, make a list of products that I could make, and then start with the easier things I can think of, and then, post it on forums, on Facebook groups, and things like that, see how it goes. And if it seems something like it could work out, I decided to just, give it help, try to do it. And it turns out that people were interested on those things, and here it just went from there.
So what's your favorite mod that you've made for the NB Miata?
I will say my strut bar. I wouldn't say it's the most functional, because Miata being a double wishbone car, the stress forces that are in the strut towers are not as the same as a McPherson car, but still helps. It's just that I'm a true believer, and that applied. That's something that I guess I learned when I was in Redstone with the people that work there. The people that work with Redstone work in F1, work in IndyCar, They won everything there is to win in racing, but they were really nice people, and they told me that form goes with function, you know. So just because something works doesn't have to be ugly, you know.
Yep.
So
You've done a
that's what
fantastic
are.
job.
Looks they
Yeah.
are. Looks like they're sold out for now.
Yeah, they are. I made a limited production run, you know, and they're extremely expensive. You know, I know it doesn't make sense. It's just they're really, really hard, really expensive to make because
It's
they're
an art
all.
piece, right?
Exactly, it is. It's an art piece, but it's also over 70% lighter than this. That because this is based actually on the Master Speed Miata. Well, the Master Speed Miata bar is also shared with other Miatas, except that the Master Speed is integrated with the cash can. In the other ones, it isn't, but it's the same bar essentially. So that is based on those dimensions. And the reason for that is that I wanted to keep on my own car the ability of using the intake that I have, the Fly Miata intake. But anyway, I thought that I'm gonna take something that is heavy, ugly, mundane looking, and turn it into something beautiful as a challenge, right? And I try to make everything I do not only work, but also be easy to use and all that kind of stuff, but also look good. You know, something that you can look and say like, well, this actually works out with the design of the car, or you know, it has function and it has form. So that part I'm pretty proud of because a lot of when I first posted this, a lot of people, oh, you're gonna sell that? Nobody's gonna pay that. Nobody cares. You know, and people, this is it's not a McPherson car. People that have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, saying that there's no reason for
Yeah.
this is not gonna do anything. But they sold out, you know, and people actually did want it apparently. So and the people that have bought them, they have had really nice things to say. So that felt really good, you know, and to be able to make it. I mean, that each base is actually designed to take 1,000 pounds of force, even though it weighs only two. The entire thing weighs 2 pounds, versus 11 pounds that the same thing weighs on a factory. And it's all made of aluminum. Each part, individual part, is made of a single block of aluminum, 6061. It uses titanium bolts to get hold together, and the bar is not a metal bar core with carbon. It's just carbon and nothing else. So yeah, what it is.
That's incredible, man. I think that's a really cool product. And like Ryan
Yeah, that's
described,
awesome.
I think the best way to describe it is a piece of art. I think that's one of those pieces that once you see it on a car, you go, this guy's not messing around. This is no expense spared.
Yeah, like you know what we do at Renntech is, let's say you guys know Singer Porsche, right? The Singer Porsche.
I
Mhm.
heard of them.
So, so what I'm trying to do right now with our classic divisions, we built one car recently at Renntech, well, like last year, called the S76R, which is all 90s Mercedes. We turned into a 7.6 liter V12, makes 650 horsepower NA, and had a couple newer details. This customer was, I had carbon ceramics and things like that, new wheels that made look like the old ones, but they were neon lighter and blah blah blah. And that was kind of like a little taste of where we want to go with the classic divisions. And I'm trying to make Mercedes into a little bit of what Singer did, you know. But I also, the time for Mercedes is coming, is now and coming. But I feel like one day, just because you know how cars become scarce as they get old, and then people start trying to get back the experience that you cannot buy in a new car anymore. I mean, that's you cannot buy a 911 from the 60s, 70s, 90s experience on a new one. It's not the same. It's like 2,000 pounds of difference, too big. It's never gonna be the same, and that's why those cars work. Same goes for the Mercedes. So one day, I feel like Miatas are gonna be in that position. I mean, you're probably never gonna be in the exact same level just because of the price difference. But I feel like one day there's gonna be one person that is gonna make a Miata into a little piece of art that goes like hell, and it's gonna be beautiful to look at, and it's gonna sound amazing. And I would like to be that person, you know, but that takes some resources that I don't have at the moment. But that piece is just a little taste of that, you know, something
Yeah.
that I feel like the car deserves it. You know, it's a little bit of art, you know, art in it's functional art. It's a little bit of functional art.
Yeah, man. I definitely think you're on the right track there, and I'm excited to see what else you produce. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wishes I was keeping my Miata now. I'm still waiting on those NC.
No, the only thing that limits me is getting cars. You know, I need cars for R&D, and for whatever reason, everybody around me has an. I mean, I know people in town with Miatas, and they let me use their cars. And even there's a treasure coast Miata is not too far, but everybody has around here is NA and MBs, not even
Yeah.
MDs really.
Well,
So you know, that's all I need, a car.
I really think part of that is due to rust. I mean, I like the NAs too. Who doesn't like the NAs? And I honestly think for my preference, an NB would almost have been a better choice, but they're all rotted out here.
Yeah.
We're just getting to that point where you just can't find one that's clean. And my NC was in so great shape, and it was the cheapest clean title. Then I was like, okay, no rust, dirt cheap, pick it up. Just go.
Yeah, you gotta shop south for Miatas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that,
My Miata's from Arkansas.
oh, is it really?
Yeah.
So that's how yours is that clean then. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it makes sense though. So, I was gonna ask if you had done much research on the NCs and how much would carry over from the NCs to the RX-8, but I guess you really haven't had your hands on a whole lot of NCs. You probably haven't researched that yet, have you?
Well, I have done a little bit of things for NCs, and I
Right.
guess how I know this, but the RX-8 is basically like extended wheelbase version of an NC. They share
Yeah.
the same front suspension and the same multi-link suspension in the rear, and and that's the reason why it's a little bit better chassis suspension, well, handling wise, I guess, because longer wheelbase allows for better weight distribution in the sense, not distribution, transfer, better weight transfer, at least for more stability. So RX-8 is basically a little bit of an improved Miata, even though they have a terrible engine or whatever you want to say about it.
Oh no! Talking smack on the
I
rotary.
wouldn't
Uh-oh.
I guess I wouldn't call it precisely terrible because it's a cool engine. It's just that, let's put it that it has its limitations.
It's
you
not
know?
an RX-7 engine. Yeah.
Well,
It's not a turbo rotary.
There's a guy that has a YouTube channel called Queen Garage Motors or something like that. He has a lot of cool cars. He has the, I guess, like NA NB with the like stock internals. You know, it's a beautiful. All his cars are pristine. He had like an S2000, a C4M. That NA, it's an NB Miata with ITVs. You know, and then
Ooh.
has a turbo Miata as well, an NA turbo Miata, and his daily driver is a black RX-8 that is also tuned, and all his cars are like, you know, track set, you know, they all have track setups, beautiful wheels, very nicely done. So you should watch his channel if you want to have an RX-8 because that's like the perfect RX-8 of what that guy has.
Yeah. I'll have to look him
Yeah.
up. I've been mainly following Kyle Mohan Racing. He does a lot of drifting and a 3-rotor RX-8. I don't know if it's based on the Renesys. I believe it is because he does a lot of research on the hybrid Renesys engines. Do you know what the hybrid Renesys is?
Do not know, no.
So a hybrid Renesys is you take a Renesys, you pull the Renesys rotor housings out, and they do not have factory peripheral ports like the RX-7s did. And that's why the RX-7s and those older rotaries float a lot better than the RX-8. Well, Kyle Mohan and Mazda supposedly have done a lot of research and said, we have plenty of flow on the intake side. The intake side isn't an issue coming through the irons. He said the problem is trying to get heat and exhaust out of the engine through the irons again. So the solution there is to actually bolt up, and supposedly it bolts right up, an FC RX-7 rotor housing, also known as the GSLSE rotor housings. Don't quote me on that, but they actually yeah, you can actually buy them brand new from Mazda, and they're $400 cheaper per housing. Again, from Mazda brand new than a Renesys. You bolt that up.
Because the biggest challenge with the Renesys was emissions, and in order to kind of cheat a little bit of emissions is keeping the mixture lean. So keeping the heat inside the rotor will make sense. You know, I guess the chamber or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So that explains. But then that turns into terrible things for performance.
Right. So supposedly Mazda and Kyle Mohan Racing have done a lot of testing. I don't know what this testing looks like, but Mazda runs it on their road course cars, and Kyle Mohan runs Renesys, I believe, in his drift car. And I know for a fact he's building a 3-rotor Renesys hybrid. So anyway, I got to hearing about that, and I was like, so it's cheaper to build. Maybe there's some additional machining you need to do to the rotor, but there's companies that do it. So it's cheaper to build essentially with a little bit of planning on the forefront, and it flows better, dissipates heat better. So I'm really at the.
You know what you need?
Yeah.
You need a Puerto Rican friend.
Do I? Okay.
Yeah, I know a guy actually. His name is This guy is one of the best human beings I ever met. He used to live in Columbus, but he always came to do street racing in Indianapolis. And we did street racing together when I had my Turbo Miata over there. Santiago Rolon is his name. I'll give you his info, but he builds his own engines, and I help him. Actually, at Redstone, we machine some billet housings he got from Australia. Well, we machine his housings to the housing ends that he got from Australia that were billet. And anyway, he has like a 1200 horsepower FCRX7, and all of his Puerto Rican friends have rotaries of one's way over. I'm talking like FCRX7, FDRX7. His car is an FC Turbo 2 RX7. A couple of those guys have R3 RX8s.
Yeah.
So that's a good community if you want to do that, because those guys are diehard rotaries. They do their own work and they know their crap.
Yeah, that would be incredible to talk to them. Now, admittedly, I'm not really going for high horsepower. I'm actually focusing on an NA just build. The only reason I'm wanting to do the hybrid is because, like I said, it sounds like it's the same cost or maybe a little cheaper. And
they probably use more reliability too.
Yeah. So, I just wanted a 4-door car that I could put a car seat in and take my son in. I've been seeing too many videos of people that got their kids in car seats in the back and they're grinning ear to ear. I'm like, well, I can't really put my son in a Miata. Not at 6 months.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So Ryan had asked, what are you most proud of developing from RGR? But I had a similar question wrote down, which is, what is your most proud project you've worked on at these companies? I mean, building and designing that engine for the race car at, you said it was Redstone Performance, right?
Yep.
That sounds like it would be pretty high up there. Is that your most proud project, or is there another one?
I will say that it is. That's definitely the main one. I mean, there are things that hopefully down the road that will make me prouder. But for now, that it is for sure. That's what it is.
It's definitely an incredible project. Yeah. So you touched on it briefly as well, and I feel like, man, we've been hearing about this a lot recently, and it's just been getting worse. Racetracks closing. You said there was one that closed right around you guys.
BBIR.
Oh my gosh! Wait, there was. Oh, I have heard about that.
Yeah, Moroso. They used to call it BBIR. Yeah, that was like from here, my house, like 25 minutes.
Oh dang.
Yeah, terrible. Now Sebring is the closest one, and but that's still like 2 hours. And then Daytona is not that far, but it's 4 hours. So 25 versus 4. That's a big difference. And BBIR was a very abrasive track, but you can still get it on in a Miata, even with the lower top speed and all that, because it was a smaller track, So
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
We've just been hearing about all this stuff. I keep up with a lot of the YouTube stuff, so I've been in the know on. Or I've been following along with Cletus McFarland, and now they're building a bunch of houses around his track, and it's like, I think it'll be interesting to see if that becomes an issue, and if somebody with his amount of pull.
And do something about it.
Yeah, and it's sounding like right now it's not. It sounds like he's already got the game plan of, if he's getting kicked out, he'll go, but he's got to rebuild another track before he leaves.
Like the I don't know, you know what happened with PIR? You know why they closed it?
I do not.
Well, what happened was that apparently I want to say Walmart wanted to build because that plot of land was already everything around PIR was swamp and still swamp. So that that already had water, electricity, etc., and the conglomerate, I guess, that owned that track, and they own other tracks around the country. They wanted to sell the land to Walmart, and then that deal, went through. And for whatever reason, they then pulled out of the deal. But then the track already was deteriorating, and that was it. They just left it there, And there's nothing there. There's nothing being built there. Last thing I heard, they were still trying to save the track, but nobody expects that to be the case. The community, I guess, the politicians, I guess, want them to be used for something else that generate more jobs, apparently, or whatever the hell. But they are building other tracks in the vicinity, I guess. But the issue, though, that all of them are like for the super rich. Things like it's only available if you can spend $50, $75, $125,000 a year membership to actually use it. There's one not too far called the Concourse, but that's not for regular people. They're for millionaires. So suddenly, all the tracks that are opening up and they're like an hour away. Or this one that's gonna be like 40 minutes away. The other one is an hour and a half away. There are tracks that are just for that, like rich people.
Man, that is incredible. It makes you wonder when this is just going to become this dystopian world where it's just warehouses, manufacturing. It's like, how long are we even going to have fun things to do?
Yeah, no.
Have you met Cletus?
No,
down there?
no, I have not actually.
Are you even close to him?
No, he's up north. He's like Central Florida north.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't
And
be
I'm very
surprised. Well, I guess he doesn't really do much Mercedes stuff, and he definitely doesn't do Mazda stuff.
Yeah, we are not the same vicinity.
No.
I'm like an hour. I'm 15 from Miami, half an hour from Palm Beach. So we are in different parts of Florida, I guess.
I guess if I ever see a Mercedes on the channel, a classic Mercedes, maybe I'll know who's building stuff for him.
I do like. I not only like work on them. I really like them. They're definitely. I guess Mazda, Porsches, and Mercedes are my favorite cars. So I'm lucky to work with them.
I just thought of something. So I actually just posted a new video today, a short form. We're just talking about. I'm trying to focus it on weird cars nobody really talks about, like sports cars, and why nobody buys them. Like, for instance, the Dodge Caliber SRT4. It's a cheap way to get into an SRT4 without buying a rotten out Neon, but who's going out of the way to buy a Dodge Caliber? But
No, yes.
yeah. And when I post this video, the very next one that came to my mind was the SRT6 Crossfire, which I believe is an AMG engine, right?
Yeah.
That supercharged V6?
Correct. It's an engine out of an SLK32, which is a really good engine. It's called the N112K, and that engine with that 5-speed, bulletproof, great engine, great transmission, and they can make really good power. Like, we sell parts for it actually.
Oh.
We actually have a Crossfire thing laying around somewhere. and you can get like 380, 400 horsepower pretty easy out of those things.
Dude,
Like
I feel like
330.
Yeah. I feel like a supercharged V6 would be like the perfect balance setup where it's like you've got the boost noises, you don't have 600 horsepower to try to keep tires and brakes on at the track. I was looking into those Mercedes because I had misread that you could get a Mercedes with that engine and a manual, and I was dead set on getting a manual. And then I found
only you can get the Crossfire manual though.
Yeah, but you can't get it with the supercharged V6. You can just get it with like a
But
Dodge
you
V6.
No, you can.
If you can.
Yeah, I think you can because I bought a car for my wife recently, and I was looking into those, and I could have swear I saw them in manual being supercharged, but I could be wrong.
I would be very interested in one of. I just feel like it'd be a fun car. It'd be kind of a weird one.
They're fun.
I've got a soft spot for cars with really weird design features, like the Gen 2 Mazda Speeds, Mazda Speed 3s, and the Crossfire. Anyway. Yeah, all right. I was hoping you would know of some obscure Mercedes that I could get that combination in, but I guess I'll have to look into the Crossfire.
C55 AMGs, I will say. I have one of those. They only made 1,500 of them. I got mine for really cheap. They were like $6,000, I think, when it was in Indianapolis. But now they are worth more than that.
I was gonna say if I could pick up a C50 because that's the supercharged V8, right?
No, that one is a smaller one. It's an NAV8, but mine. So 380 horsepower, 0 to 16, 4.7 seconds.
With a stick?
No, they every single AMG ever made is automatic.
Oh, okay, okay.
There's it's a 5-speed, but it's a bulletproof 5-speed with a bulletproof engine. Nothing is complicated on that car. I put like 60,000 miles on mine. I don't have an issue. Only the fan went bad, but that's it. So great cars. I would recommend it to anybody, and so much fun because it's the right size, the right weight. It's like the new one is like 1,200 pounds heavier than that one. Even the 4-cylinder one is like insane how heavy they are now.
How heavy is the C55 that you have?
I don't have it anymore, but
Or
it was 30.
have?
Yeah, 3,400 pounds, 3,500 pounds.
That's
something like that.
pretty good. Yeah, for a
Not
V8
terrible,
car.
not great, but it's okay. Yes, exactly. It was a 5.4 V8. And again, fantastic machine, absolutely fantastic.
Because I've been paying a lot more attention to weight recently, and I found out that the S197 Mustangs with the Coyote, surprisingly lightweight cars. I'm pretty sure we scaled my cousin's performance pack, and it was like 3,500 pounds on scales. And for reference, my 5th gen SS, like 1SS, so base model V8, was 3,680. And then 6th gen SS that Luke had was 3,640. It was like low 3,600. So it was pretty lightweight, but I was blown away by what the S197s weighed. But all the other V8s after that have just been 3,800 pounds minimum, it seems like.
And then you have Challengers that are like over 4.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for that purple color they come in, though.
Oh yeah, they are fantastic. At work we have the new E-classes, particularly the GT63, which is like a looking, thing that is based on an E-class. That one weighs, like 4,800 pounds, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But they're insanely heavy, and they handle well for like about a lap, because then everything gets too hot, the brakes get too hot, the tires get too hot, the suspension is working too hard because it's air suspension too. But you can get extreme amounts of power out of it. We offer something called the R3X package, and on the street we clock sub 10 quarter miles. We make over 1,000 horsepower wheel with just bolts on essentially on that car.
Wow.
Just the only thing is that it's stupid heavy. That's the only issue.
Yeah, that's become such a big thing for me. As soon as I went from my black 5th gen with the cam, so just under 500 wheel horsepower is what it dynoed. Like I said, 3,780 pounds. That car was the 1LE. I had a 1LE as well. And man, I jumped from that into my Miata, and I said I'll never go back to a 3,800 pound car. I loved my Camaro. It was a great car. I won't do it again though. Buying 305 with tires, buying those brakes, it's
expensive to run them.
I got a set of RT660s.
They are fast though. I mean, Luke's Camaro,
Yeah.
You still have that?
What?
You still have the Camaro?
Nah, he sold that a while back. He's had like 60 cars since then that have lasted 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen I remember a CO6 Corvette, and I remember Evo. I think he has an Evo 10.
He's got the Evo still.
Oh, that Evo is a fully built race car.
Evo 10.
He can't really drive that. No, it's not. It's not. That he thinks it is. He treats it like it is, but it's like a bone stock Evo.
Oh, okay, cool. No, those are cool cars.
I'm just hoping Luke's in here. That way he hears me throwing shade to him.
He joins in the YouTube, he told me. So check the YouTube chat. He might be.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah. So like for me, cars the more I work on them. I mean, part of my job at Renntech is to test drive these cars, right? And also at restaurant I drove some cars. I drove some of those race cars. Nothing crazy. At Renntech we have a road here, and well, in Mexico, okay, let's put it that way, and that's part of the reason why we are where we are in this such an unknown place, is because there is a lot of like farmland where there's long straight roads. In Mexico, there is nothing around. So because we have a lot of customers, for example, in Germany, that they say, hey, I was in the autobahn doing 220 miles an hour and my car was like misfiring. So what the hell? So you have to prepare for those scenarios. So we have to take these cars up there sometimes and to tune them and to make sure that everything is good. And so I grab we have a little like logger. We put it on the car and then we go drive fast. And when we have PVIR, we went to PVIR. We've been to other tracks now that PVIR is closed. I got into drive many of these newer Mercedes at the track and really fast. And I still like my old cars after all of that. The one Mercedes that new Mercedes that I really like is the GT. I don't know if you know those, the long nose car, short deck, two-door coupe.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the AMG GT. That thing is absolutely fantastic. It's so simple. There's no fancy suspension in it or rear electronics or gizmos. It's mainly a front mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, axle in the back. And it's a shame that the new one, they made a new one that just made it like cheaper, because cars are just getting more expensive to R&D, I guess.
Yeah.
But they got rid of a lot of the cool things that car used to have. double wishbone, now it's McPherson, and then it used to be a front mid engine, now it's front engine. It used to have a dry sump, no dry sump, no transaxle. Now it has 4 seats instead of 2. So, well, anyway, I designed a suspension with Ollins for that car. And oh my god, this is amazing. And we also did like a tubular subframe, lighter rotors, titanium roll bar. We got rid of about like 200 pounds of that car. So it was sitting at like 3,300 pounds with like 670 horsepower. Just perfection.
Yeah.
But the more I get to drive these things, the more is for me cars become about the experience. It's not so much about the power, or not so much about the age or the value or anything like that. It's what does the car brings to the table in terms of how you feel when you drive it. And to me, that's it. Is the experience. And I got in really good. I had a good old 302 Mustang when I was in Indy that I adore. It was so slow, It was flat. I had a 350C before that car. And even though the 350C was faster in every metric and it should have been better, the 350C sucked at everything. Like, it was okay at everything. It was okay at cruising, and it was okay in straight line. It was okay in handling. The plastic in the interior were terrible. The handling wasn't that great. It was really hard to make power. But the GT was, I'm just an American muscle car, and I'm slow, and I know it, and I don't care. And I love about that. Like the car wasn't pretending to be anything, and I feel that the cars that's it. It has to be good at what it is, and not trying to be good at too many things. That's how you get cars with the GT63 that can make a lot of power, but then when you go to the track with all those gizmos, you can still not beat physics, because they are trying to do too many things at once.
Right. That's very fair. Yeah. So, speaking of that, I wanted to touch on this as a question I had. Whatever happened to your S197? You bought an S197.
Is that the yellow one? Yeah, yellow one. Let me think, because I go to cars often too. What happened to that one? I had my Mazda Speed. I think I had a Jaguar XJ8. I want to say before that, which I really liked. But then I got it because I had family visiting, and then I can get something smaller to drive every day. I figured, and then I got the GT. I like that car. Another car that wasn't fantastic, but it was an honest car, for sure. And then I sold that, and I got a S600 Mercedes. It's V12 twin turbo.
Mm-hmm.
I got all the Renntech goodies in it. So that car made like 680 horsepower. It had a special tune, and about 800 pound-feet of torque. So could do the quarter mile in 11 seconds. So it was pretty quick. That thing could pull the tires. You do 100 miles an hour, and it will spin the tires, no problem. I did a little bit. I think I did less than an hour to Miami from here, which is pretty crazy. One night.
Oh my gosh.
To the airport. I went to the airport one day. I took that car with a friend. That car I ended up selling it to a collection. Actually, there's these guys. You should watch it in YouTube. They are called the Patina Collective. Patina Collective these guys are from the Middle East, and they are trying to get the biggest Mercedes collection in the world, I guess. I swear they have to have like 1,000 cars now. But they were getting cars from like sheikhs in the Middle East and things like that, like all these tuner Mercedes, the weirdest of the weirdest, rarest of the rarest, like wacky color combos, wagons, like whatever you can imagine, things that belong to kings, to all those people over there, and the royal family in Europe too, like shit like that. Insane, just insanity. I don't know where these guys have so much money, but they're really cool people. They're good customers of Renntech too. And I got my car for sale, and I guess somebody found out that I work at Renntech, and that the car had all the Renntech catalog thrown on it essentially. And they approached me with an offer. It wasn't an offer. They just gave me what I want, essentially. And they said, well, here's the money. And I actually kept the car for like a month before they actually told me to drive it down there to their collection. But they showed me some of what they have, because they have like several warehouses full of cars. This was the little warehouse with just some of the cooler cars. And they bought it. And there's a Shmi, Shmi 150?
Yes, I do.
So he went to that collection, and they actually point out my car that say, this used to be a Renntech engineer's car that was on that video. Me actually also went to visit us at Renntech, so I actually got to spend a lot of time talking to him. Trucker guy, by the way, Not gonna lie, I didn't like. No, I really don't like him. Or this.
Oh.
Well, I like him now, but I like him now that I met him. But I didn't like him in his videos just because he seemed a little annoying. But
Oh.
trucker guy, and I could talk the same way I'm talking to you in the most technical of terms, and he will be able to keep up with you. Like, he knew his shit.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. So we spent some time together there, showing the cars around. He drove the car around. So yeah. But anyway, so that's where that car went. My V12 Mercedes.
That's
And then,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah.
I was sitting over here. I was like, "Oh, he's shit talking Shmee." I'm already titling this video "Podcast Highlights." Engineer talk shit on Shmee. No, I'm just kidding. Well, it's funny because I've had 2 instances now. I don't remember the one with Bailey, but we had on a buddy of mine from TikTok, Daniel. Wow, I'm forgetting Daniel's last name. Anyway, it goes by Daniel Drives, and he actually worked at the submarine company, or he worked at a company that sold equipment to the submarine that sank. Or that imploded.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't remember that? Do you
Bailey?
Yeah, I remember the submarine.
No, Bailey was an aircraft mechanic. This was Daniel. But Daniel was saying, he was like, yeah, it's very likely I walked past a piece of equipment that went down on that submarine. He goes, and it's just sitting next to not next to the Titanic, but with the Titanic down there.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was like telling us
that
about, how they had Stockton Rush's picture up on the wall. And then he was like, oh yeah, all that news came out. They pulled that picture down, and I was really wanting to put it up on like its own highlight, but I was like, I probably shouldn't, just in case.
Damn,
I try to play it safe, but yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing against me for sure. I mean, I just, there are people that you see them and you find them annoying. That's the case for me. I met the guy and I actually like the guy, so cool guy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, Mercedes bought a couple other cars. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, you've really got your hands in a bunch of different stuff with all these connections. This has got to be, quite the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess adventure here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up in a little farm in central Panama where I didn't have neighbors actually where I live. We didn't even have there wasn't like city water essentially. Everybody had to have. We still have their own. Everybody has their own well. Pretty rural area, if you may, right? And everything you see around. If people had cars, they will have trucks, right? Because of how the roads were and whatever. And I grew up in this farm, and we didn't have cable or anything like that. And the few things I knew about cars was because of TV. The things that they give on like Sunday mornings, they do like how they make it, and they would show cars and things like that. I was the moment I knew about it or toys, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I want to do that. I want to be involved in that. And then eventually they started like having F1 on national TV F1 races, and I watched one. I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. I want to do that too. And then and then my life has been shaped out of that. And I got a scholarship to come here, not because my parents could afford it or anything like that. And then I've been fighting very hard to like grab to that dream of keep it going, because a lot of people go to school and then even for more sports engineering and things like that, and life happens and you have to do something else. And if I needed to go work in a box factory to do boxes to survive, I would have done it, no problem.
Right.
I've been lucky that I've been able to stick to this industry and to do the things I like and I love. And I'm very happy to be where I am, because I'm actually the only person from Panama to ever do it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Could you guys give me a second? Seems like I have a visit.
No, not a problem, dude.
No
Take as much
problem.
time as you need.
Okay, thank you.
So Ryan, well, we've got some time here. Track stuff. So it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
have you officially signed up for the track day?
I have not, but can you send me the link? It's track nights at Gingerman.
Track Nights in America is the group. So I assume you're towing down with the Rado,
Yes.
the old Rado.
I
I got
will not be driving the Miata on slicks to the track.
Well, Why not?
You know,
What
it's
are you
just.
afraid of? What's the worst that happen? Like it rains, sprinkles?
Yeah, I might. Don't tempt me.
Well, I know I won't be driving the Miata down. I'm not driving the Miata 4 hours to go race it.
Yeah, I know. It's
Uh,
4 hours from you?
it is 4 hours.
Oh,
Yes. So here's the thing. I've actually got
really?
to go get the trailer that morning, come home, load up the Miata, and then take off to this area of Ohio or Michigan, whatever it's called. And then I'm hoping to get there around 2:30.
What day is it? 21st?
Yes, 21st. It's on a Thursday. And I'm camping at the track, so I'm taking Thursday, Friday off.
Yeah, I will be too.
So
2023 Gingerman Raceway. Okay. What class did you sign up with? Novice or intermediate?
I'm pretty sure I signed up novice. My goal is to go there and just say, hey, like I have some performance driving experience, but like not on a road course. So I normally don't leave 65 miles.
I'm gonna sign up as intermediate. I'm sure if you're feeling like you're above the performance metric of novice, you can just ask to be bumped up and they don't care. It's fine.
Okay.
Novice has a lot of really strict rules. Like, I don't think you can pass at all. There's no passing.
That almost sounds very limiting.
That's the biggest thing that I hate about novice. Novice is literally learning how to drive on a track. Intermediate is when you know something, you know the flags, you're careful. You're not scared of driving the car at that speed. Honestly, for you, I would say if you can, change to intermediate.
I'll reach out to the organizers and see what they recommend.
Okay.
It might be a good idea. So yeah, I am pumped though. I'm trying to think of what my autocross schedule is looking like. I know we've got an event this weekend. Actually, shit. I'll probably put my race pads on the Miata in the next couple days. Bed them in Friday, just take them out, just do a quick bed in, and then test them out at autocross on Sunday. And then after that, the Miatas will be ready to go. The Miata will be ready to go. At that, I want to change the trans fluid in the Xterra, just because I don't know. My understanding is it was changed at 100,000 miles, but I'm going to be in it. I mean, converter unlocked for 4 hours, pulling almost its max capacity. So, yeah, we're talking about preparing for the track day and getting tow rigs prepared. So,
Very, very good. I mean, that's a good start. Fluid, pads, tires, lines. Those are the basics. Making sure your oil is good. And
Have you ever driven on slicks, Christian? Like Hoosiers?
never on a car on my own. I've driven some of the race cars I've worked with. I have, but nothing, not pushing them because they weren't mine, and they could definitely not
Yeah,
even
for
pass
sure.
those ones. But no, not really. Like I don't have any meaningful experience with slicks. Let's put it that
Okay.
way.
Because I bought a set of used slicks that have about two track days left in them. Got them for $50, and that's what's going on the Miata.
Well,
And I've never driven with slicks before, so
it depends on the wear. There are wear gauges, and they usually have holes for them, so you can see how much the wear is.
Yep.
Depending on the compound of the tire, how soft or hard it is. There are times where tires are like, they come alive, they start dying, and they go to a graining phase, and then they come alive again, and then they just dive. Depends on where you are in that scale, how much fun you're gonna have. But likely it's gonna be better than anything else.
it's gonna be an interesting night, that's for sure.
I'm kind of hoping he just can't get heat in them because the car weighs 30 pounds and the NC destroys the miles to speed.
That was funny. I had a friend with a 2.5 NC, actually, a good friend of mine, local.
Mm-hmm.
And 2.5 cams. I mean, the thing was sick. And we would autocross together, and that was always, like the thing to see who would do better. And he was quick. He was really quick. I was quicker.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't have a 2.5 with cams. I just have the bone stock, crappy 2 liter. I never understand why they didn't just put the 2.5 in it from the factory.
Yeah, who knows? Well, money probably, but yeah, or taxes in Japan. That would be too.
Oh, maybe that would make a lot of sense. Because isn't there a tax once you start getting over like?
Over 2.2, I want to say, or it's 2 liters. Something. It's over 2 liters, I think, that you start getting another tax rate.
Over 2 liters, you get ridiculous tax.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that might be why, I guess. But still, they had better 2 liters even than the 2 liter that's in it. Heck. So, I don't know. I will say, I feel like I'm a Mazda fan. I've only owned 2 Mazdas. But, dude, if you think about it, Mazda has been the biggest follower of motorsports, the biggest supporter of motorsport enthusiasts. Chevy will sell you a big V8. Ford's doing some really cool stuff too. But, Ford used to own Mazda, so I'll root for them too. Dodge will sell you a big V8. Nissan used to be cool. Now they just put those Jatco CVTs and everything, and they blow up. Their body on frame stuff was still kind of cool. I like those. Toyota is making a resurgence for some reason with BMW engines. And Subaru. Oh. Why did they pick Subaru and BMW to put in their cars? They're notorious for reliability, and they said, you know what we should do? Let's buy 2 unreliable brand engines. Okay, I say unreliable, but I don't actually know anything about BMW or Subaru. But yeah, I would argue Toyota has historically been more reliable than most car companies.
Yeah, they're right. That's definitely weird. I had a Subaru, a Legacy GT Turbo, and I took care. That was a daily driver, and I didn't really modify. I put like an axle back, and I think that was it. So it's something nice, and I drove it, and I took 3,000 mile oil changes, and the thing still gave me issues. Like cold packs went wrong, and because the head is right next to the frame rail, it's just impossible to get them out essentially. Like they have things like they put a cat before the turbo, and then shit from the cat can get into the turbo in these specific years. Like why are you like this? Like just doesn't matter how much you love them, they won't love you back essentially. And then just, like what you said, Toyota chooses them to put their engine on their sports car. Well, whatever. Who knows?
We had Bailey Ipoc on last weekend. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's got a lot of experience running Super Lap Battle. He's won some national level autocross events. He's got a pretty extensive history, but he used to have a white Subaru hatchback. And I was a big fan of those cars. Before I bought my Jetta, which was before I got my Mazda and I met you, I was dead set on a Subaru, the Subaru Wagon WRX. I was like, that's all I want. That's what I'm going to get. And younger me, I didn't know anything. And I was just picturing all the launches I was going to do in this thing, which would have been 3 before the 5-speed blew up.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that at the time. And thank gosh, my dad talked me out of it. And he's like, just buy this Volkswagen. And I was like, all right, Dad. And I did. It was a GLI though, so it was cool.
Yeah. Those are neat cars. I mean, I would feel like a GLI will make a nice daily.
It was a fun car, but nothing compared to even a Mazda Speed 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But
yeah. And the B58 though on the Supra, I mean, one of the guys that work with me, he owns a company called Dorsch Pumps, something like that. Dorsch Engineering. There we go. And he specializes in doing BMW pumps. He was the guy that ran the department before me. His company grew actually so big that that's what he does now full time. But he specializes in doing fuel pumps for those engines and those BMW in general. And those things can make a lot of power. My understanding is that Toyota took the engine, but after BMW let them make it better essentially. And by better I mean actually reliable. So it seems like the engine is pretty stout, but it has crazy potential. We have to deal at Renntech with a M256 inline-six engine that Mercedes made, and that BMW engine is here, and the Mercedes one is here. It's not even close. That inline-six, though that B56, B58, and the S58, which is the M version of it, they're just fantastic engines. I just don't like the cars. I like the Supra. I actually rented one for a few days when I went to India a couple years ago. I liked it, I didn't feel like it was that special, but it was a cool car. But the the BMWs, like the new M4 and things like that, I just don't like the way they look. But the engines are cool. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I know Autocross Nationals are going on right now, and we've got a Columbus, Indiana local named Brandon Parambo competing in that with his Porsche Carrera. Don't quote me on that. I don't fully understand all the Porsche models, but he's got a beautiful spec, and it's really done really well, and he's competing in B Street, and he's currently third with a 2021 Supra leading. So I think it's no secret those B58s have definitely proven their point. Those things have been solid engines, and it looks like maybe the Supra is actually a pretty good chassis, I guess, because it looks pretty competitive.
Funny you say that. The autocross here is seen. There was a small track at PBIR that was for karting that they used for karting, but I guess a kid died once, so they just use it for autocross. I don't know how a kid dies on a kart track, but apparently it happened. So it was only used for autocross. So then they have another autocross going at Homestead, so I've been there a couple times. And there was this guy that he had, funny enough, a Porsche Carrera. His was a Carrera 2S, rear-wheel drive, S model. And man, he will always be like top 2, top 3 on that thing, like, or either win it or be like right there. And just well set up, big tires, coilovers, almost nothing to the engine. And then one of his best friends had a Supra, and then he started like getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and he was always up there. I mean, I had a couple of Miata buddies, and we always were in the like top 10ish, leave it over, a little bit under sometimes. But these guys, there was a guy with a Veloster N, WRX guy, a guy with a Miata, but big wing and K-swap and all that, big tires. And then these guys in the Supra and the Porsche that were always like right there, really, really quick.
What are your opinions on Hyundai?
Oh God. Don't answer that.
Actually, maybe you shouldn't answer that.
You're gonna send him on a rant.
So, Christian, one thing I should really just start telling all of our guests this. I'm the king about talking shit about things I know zero about. Don't get me started on Fram filters. I absolutely love Hyundai Kia, 100%. I don't dislike them. But then again, I'll sit here and talk smack about anything. I think it's fun to kind of ruffle feathers sometimes. Like, for instance,
it is absolutely, it is.
I used to be a big GM guy. Now I hate GM. But that's
Whoa.
fair. That's fair.
Watch your mouth, buddy.
We should all hate GM.
I have a Colorado, okay?
No, it's okay, Ryan.
Colorado.
GM's been
You ever
building
seen
good
that video?
V6s. Oh,
You ever
the
seen-
Silverado guy?
Well,
Silver
they made
potato.
a Colorado video once too.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that one.
Oh yeah, you have to watch it. It's funny too.
This is my Chevy Silverado. That's great.
Silver potato.
Speaking of trucks, do I remember seeing that you there was like a post about all the vehicles people have owned since they were 17. That's a meme right now all over the car club where everybody acts like boomers or whatever. But did I see you post that you used to have a bunch of like off-road rigs, a couple Jeeps and stuff? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Okay, so I had a Homer H3 once, not by my own volition. Let me tell you, it was my sister's car, and they just like sister has done well financially, like anybody else in my family. And whenever she gets rid of a car, she pretty much gives it away. So you don't buy it, you're dumb, essentially. So I bought from her an H3. And then what else? There was I had a Hilux. I bought a Hilux in Panama, but my dad has it right now. I still have that. Then I mean, still mine, but not really. Is his. But that was that, and then it was two Hiluxes. One was like he had an ARV bumper and everything, like all the goodies, and then the other one that is just a regular SRV Hilux, which is a 3.0 turbo diesel car. So yeah, and then I had the Durango. I had the Suburban is already an off-road. I had a Suburban. I want to say that was it. I don't think No, I did have a Jeep once. I had a Jeep Cherokee once, but not for a long amount of time, or I never did anything meaningful with it either.
Never really got in the mud.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, my one of my cousins, he had a comments that he was lifted and all that because he did deliveries to really far away places where you actually needed to off-road like a lot. So I did that with him, and he also had a CJ7 Jeep with some 37s,
Yeah.
TSL boggers, and bedlock wheels and all whatever you can imagine. So
Yeah.
we used to do something called the National and Enduro. So where you went to these really far away communities and we will deliver like food and toys for the people there because these are communities of indigenous people that have been there for you know hundreds and hundreds of years. They are not living there, but stuff doesn't get over there all the time, particular when like there's a lot of rain and floods and things like that. So whenever that happens, we will do that and deliver things, and people will make a little bit of fun trip out of it and take their cool cars full of crap, food and toys and whatever, and we were there. So yeah, that's all the experience I've done modding, I guess. And I mean, I've done it. You just I haven't done it in many years.
Yeah. I think we found out recently that honestly the mud stuff ain't for us. I'm cool with like rocks and like off-roading, but I don't really want to go in like a 3 foot
Deep mud
bog.
bogs.
Yeah. It's not fun.
I prefer the asphalt. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, we've started getting more into like, the adventure stuff recently. So I bought an Xterra Pro 4X.
Overlanding.
Well, you got to be careful because there's some overland elitists that would say you've not been overland and you got to drive to go camping to be overland. You're just adventure driving.
Well, we haven't really been overlanding in my opinion.
right.
Wait, overlanding is sleeping. That's the definition. You go somewhere and sleep. Is that
Essentially,
it?
it's camping. It's
Okay.
camping out of your vehicle and off-roading to get there. Essentially,
long sections of trail that take multiple days to complete,
Huh.
where you have to end up sleeping in your vehicle or on the trail.
Yeah, I guess I've done that. I mean, in those trips that I told you, sometimes it will be like 35 cars go, and then only like 3 make it back in like a 3-day trip. You have to get other cars another day when things come down to get the other ones out. One time I saw one guy that he had good money. He was pretty crazy, and he brought this brand new Isuzu D-Max, which is like a Colorado here,
yep.
but turbo diesel, and he lifted it and whatever. And the issue that he had was the axles, and he even took axles with him because I guess he knew what was gonna happen. He had it before, but this guy did everything to that car, like wheel motor, big turbo, best wheel you can buy, best suspension you can buy, best bumpers, differentials. Else he get like air locker, everything you can imagine. And this thing just kept giving him shit. Like everything kind of went wrong, and he literally lighted the car on fire just because he was done with it. He just poured some like gas because the car was diesel, but other trucks around like were gas power, like big V8s and things like that. And he just said, "Hey, can you give me a little bit of gas?" And then he just went sprayed the car, light it on fire, and he stayed there.
I
that
want a
was- that was
fraction of the money
crazy.
that guy has.
One of the craziest
Oh, it's
things
got
I
insurance, right? So.
I don't know what happened after
Oh
that.
no, my car caught on fire. I don't know what happened.
Must have had a
I'm
fuel
pretty
leak.
sure that's what he
Anyway.
did. I'm pretty sure that's what he did. I mean, who is gonna say the contrary, especially over there?
Uh,
So, like, but crazy things.
That's crazy. So, I haven't really asked you a whole lot about Panama, and if you don't mind, I've always been curious. I remember, I think you and Luke and I were running around Indianapolis one time. We were just getting a couple drinks. And remember, you were telling me about Panama, and it stuck with me ever since. But if I remember correctly, you were telling me that Panama is very different. Everybody there treats each other like family. Everybody there wants to get along. Everybody tries to coexist. And I don't think that you said the United States is the opposite, but I feel like the United States is not that way.
It's different, Like, there's a lot of religions and culture over there. I feel like you cannot kind of hate other people because one, you're gonna hate somebody that lives right next to you or you went to school with that because everything is so mixed. You're gonna hate yourself. People are very like racially mixed. Like, in every classroom in Panama, I always had Muslim classmates. I always had Asian classmates. I always had black classmates. I always had people that look like me, like we call mestizos, which are like mix of white and black and indigenous. I don't really know what I am, to be honest. Nobody really knows. because records are terrible from the Spanish because they just suck at organizing things. And so everybody's mixed like that, and nobody's like really one thing or the other. Everybody's like a little bit of everything. And then you go to every corner store. Indian kids, I always had Indian classmates. So every corner store there's an Asian family that's been there for 100 years or more, and they have Hispanic names. They talk like they speak like me, but they look Chinese. And there's a mosque in my town. My town is a tiny town of 70,000 people, and there's a mosque.
Huh.
And so you cannot really hate your neighbor, because the issue with people is that people don't like people fear what they don't know. And in Panama we grow up knowing all these things, knowing all this tradition, knowing all these religions, knowing all these people. We cannot get away from it, so it's really hard to get pissed at them for anything.
Right.
Like um so yeah, I think like people, because the sense of community is a lot bigger too. Like everybody knows their neighbors, like everybody says hello, everybody speaks when they're in line. Like people don't really avoid each other or avoid a good conversation at all. And then over there, politics wise, there's not really like left and right. There's only you and them is politicians. So
Oh my gosh,
because
I would love that.
there's a lot of, I mean, stuff in Panama is not as bad as like other countries in Latin America, but there's still corruption. But there's still freedom of speech and things like that. So you don't have to fear for your safety either from criminality or freedom of speech or anything like that. The thing is that they just, they're doing stuff that is making them a lot of money when they should be actually working. So but over there,
Politicians? No, never.
No, no way.
but they should
Really?
they should be as like
Right.
But people know that they are the. I mean, people they say I voted for this guy, but he disappointed me, so now you are my enemy because you didn't do what you. It's not like there's not so much this. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like because the guy I like or the group I like, everything they do is fine, and everything the other guy does is bad. It's not like that. It's like
Huh.
people. There's a lot more parties though. We have like 6, 7 parties, and so people are. I don't know they people always swing to whatever seems to be the best option, and there are more options too. And also a lot more younger people in politics, and the younger people are overwhelmingly, like most of them are honest, are honest and work better than the old guys. The old guys, everybody wants to fuck everything up because we had a dictatorship many, many, many years ago, and they were really, really corrupt, and they did a lot of bad stuff. So some of those guys are from that school of thought, that they act still like that, and they just remain in power like here, old people running everything. Oh, younger people are getting more into politics, and those guys are doing really good work. So I expect things to get better as these old people die and retire, and but for now they're still holding on to power, sadly.
That is interesting. The especially the non two party thing. I hate hearing people argue in the United States just because the other person typically leans one way or the other. I feel like that all it
Annoying.
does is just divide people.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we have anything that is. There's one party that is extreme left, but they never get enough votes to stay alive. So they always have to start that process again to become a real thing. But there's not really a right wing party, I would say, like an extreme right. This right, but not like extreme right. Like religion is rarely used in politics. Let's put it that way, which is weird because it's a very conservative country in general.
There had to be a
But
culture
it's not-
shock moving to Indiana then.
Yeah,
I'd argue we are a
I
Bible
feel that way.
state.
Like my grandmother and all her generation, like older people, they all go to church a lot and they believe in God, but I never seen them directly using them against other people. They just
Wow.
they just kind of keep it to themselves. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my grandmother from my dad's side will be, she was extremely religious, like church every weekend, and in everything they did, she did with them, like every event that they have. In that town particularly, there's a lot of gay people actually, and for this big event of carnivals, the gay people come out in full splendor.
Mm-hmm.
And they are the ones that they have like floats for the event, and there's water. It's a big event. But gay people are the ones that they do everything. They do the design for these floats and all of that, and they're out dancing and singing. And I mean, the thing always happens in a park that is always in front of a church. Even though everybody in this town is really conservative and religious, they still welcome these people to their homes. I mean, my grandmother will give them food and she will talk to them and have a good time. Sure, they completely disagree on that part, that wasn't okay. But I never, not even once, will see her or anybody treat them badly because my religion told me to treat you like shit.
Yeah,
So
everybody
that
still
was never
sees
used
people as
like that.
people.
Yeah, they have that pretty figured out, I would say. We are so yeah, that's something that I when I went to the US is the first time that I saw that like religion used for that purpose, to actually politically use it as a weapon to do something against people you don't like,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, because politics back home have always been how we get rid of these corrupt people, or how the corrupt people can take advantage and take money away from us. Essentially, it's
Yeah.
not really about like imposing will. It's about stealing money, really, which
It's
still
about
sucks.
power.
But it's I kind of like prefer the money than making me do something I don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, ever since you've told me that, Panama has always been a place I would love to visit. I feel like that and
Oh,
Australia.
Panama looks really cool.
Yeah.
And
Well,
foreigners are very welcome, so you should guys. I mean, I took two friends. One was from Virginia, and his family have a BMW race team called Rooster Hall Racing. He had such a good time over there. And my other friend Juni from Singapore went to, and I mean, we had a lot of fun. So,
yeah.
and people in Panama always try to be, always try to, I guess, impress you. I guess, be nice to you, so you have a good picture of us. I guess. So definitely, people are very, the hospitality is great.
The United States is going to do that. You come over here to visit the United States. If you go to like New York, people are going to step on your shoe and be like, trying to
Get out
get
of my
to you,
way.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
Like,
I
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being negative, but I definitely want to try to venture out. Ryan, I'm pretty sure the Pan American Trail runs through Panama towards the end, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Well, it
All right.
stops in Panama.
So you hit the Darien Gap.
Yep.
Well, if you-
And then you have to go to Colombia, and there's a ferry. I don't think there's a ferry anymore. But
well, there should be a
because-
ferry. 'Cause if not, you're not getting through the Darien Gap.
Well, you sometimes you have to take the canal, the Panama Canal, because what
Oh,
happens?
okay.
Well, there's a lot of migrants coming there now. A lot of them die sadly because it's really dangerous.
The
But there's
Gap?
been like 300,000 coming this year. They tried to come to the U.S. actually, so they're just going through. But it's become a big problem, particularly because on the Colombian side there are paramilitary guerrillas. They are not good people. Let's put it that way. And we don't really have an army, but we do. That is over there, and there is gunfights and things like that. And people are on the way, like regular people running from things. So it's not a good place. That corner, the frontier between Colombia and Panama. But so yeah, so I think that the best way these days is probably go to the canal and get to a bigger city in Colombia and then continue to Argentina.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been.
Long trip.
You're good.
No, it's a long trip. It's just I've been from Panama to Honduras, Nicaragua, and then I've driven here in the U.S. But I don't even know what the Pan American highway is in the U.S. to be honest, or what highway is. But yeah, like it's a long road. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there's a lot to see.
No, that would be like that's like a trip you take, I think, when you're retired, because that's like a 3-month trip, if I'm thinking.
Long
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, we're planning in 2025 to do the Trans-American Trail, and I don't think with me having a 6-month-old, and hell, my wife's actually wanting another baby before then. I don't think we're gonna be able to do the full Trans-American Trail. We're trying to just do the western third, just do all the mountain passes essentially.
Which one is that? From where to where?
From
It's-
Oklahoma to Oregon.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah.
Cool. When I was a kid, there was a British club, older guys. They would grab all these like Lotus Lands and MG midgets and just British cars, and they will drive from Alaska to Panama every year. Like I don't know why would they choose those cars because they're so unreliable, but they will do it. And actually like 3 months ago there were a couple of guys that were one was like a Bentley 8-liter for the 1930s. The other guy had like a Silver Shadow, Rolls Royce, some sorts.
Oh my gosh.
In a Lagonda. There were three guys. I mean, friends of me sent me these videos, and they were going from. They actually went from Argentina to. They were going to Alaska.
Mhm.
They were on the way there, and they were already to Panama. You know, and a couple days later, some friends from Costa Rica sent me some pictures. And they were already in Costa Rica, and so yeah, like there are people that do that. It really. I mean, those cars are for the 1930s. You know, and they're doing these trips on them.
Wow.
So, yeah, the Brits are the ones I've seen the most doing this kind of crap.
Hey, I'm going to back up a little bit. I had a question that I forgot to ask earlier, and it was about your time as the founder of RGR, Renntech, and I guess Redstone would be interesting to hear about as well. Redstone. So Ryan and I used to work in automotive engineering design for a major diesel manufacturer, which you might have seen on some of the stuff I posted. I haven't really said it on the channel. But, so yeah, I was designing a major on-highway diesel engine. I was actually designing another on-highway diesel engine. And then Ryan works with mainly electric axles now. So Ryan and I have been pretty open about the crazy timelines that automotive design gets put under. But we think a lot of that's due to customer demand. And I have sort of said before that I feel like a lot of this automotive stuff gets pushed out just due to timelines. You know, we'll have data showing that, hey, this isn't the best we can do. We know how we can fix it. And the company will come back and go, okay, well, we're selling it to the customer in 3 months. So if you can't get a new one in 3 months, fully produced, I don't care. It's going out. And it was kind of eye-opening to me when I got into that world. Do you fight with the same thing at Renntech? I assume Redstone is just saying, I don't care how long and how much money. We just need to be the fastest car out there.
Well, really, to a degree, in Redstone was more in racing because we supply things for race teams.
Right.
So it was like, well, it was the money. That part wasn't that much of an issue there. It was over there was okay. It has to be. This is the specs. We want it to be about this light or this strong. It needs to do this and that. And needs to be ready for next weekend. I don't care about how you do it or what it's made of or what the hell. Sometimes it will be like material or like hardness or whatever strength limitations, but mostly it was like a blank check. Do what you need to do to get the goal, achieve the goal, and I love that part about it. But that's not the real industry because there you have it has to cost certain amount of money, and you have to be able to repeat a certain amount of times, and blah blah blah. More production oriented thing, and that's kind of how Renntech is. Now Renntech is small production, not really like big production, but it's still more than it was at Redstone. Over there, the issue is that we have salesmen. We have a team of salesmen. And then they will, we will say, or they will hear, hey, these guys are working on this thing for this new car, or this new car came out, and they will promise the moon and the stars to customers. And then, well, it's already sold. So when are you going to have it ready? And you're like, well, fuck, we are not ready. We haven't like even started. Like, we are getting to it, to this project. And then you have to just rush to get it out the door, and sometimes we have been in situations where, if the prototype comes out to be good, they will sell them the prototype, just because. Or we had like in the case of turbos, when we had the new stage 2 turbos that we got, we get our turbos made in Germany, but we designed them in house. And then when the first set came in, we put it on a car, we dyno it. It went to like I guess a couple weeks of testing. We really wanted more time, but we needed to get it out the door, and those turbos came out and say, hey, these turbos are the real ones. These have been used. You want it, and sure, they'll take it, and if they'll take it, we'll sell it.
Yeah.
But that I've dealt with similar to smaller scale things like that, where the customer wants it now, when you have to get it ready, even before it should be ready.
Yeah. And actually, I want to clarify one thing. I made it sound like manufacturers will ship a bad product. That's not the case. I have seen a severe issue that would just be absolute death to an entire engine platform. And it did delay a prototype engine build. But you need to be able to go to your customer and say, you cannot sell this. And then they will go, you sure? And you'll go, yeah, you can't sell this. And they'll go, okay. It's like another couple weeks more, and then then you can make a case. But a hypothetical situation is we had a cooler that we were trying to improve upon. I'm going to be very vague, and we improved upon it. And we got some of our test data back, and we found out that we had increased some of our temps a little further than we expected. Luckily, we had plenty of margin of error, and we didn't really have an issue with it. But wow, okay, some of the details are gone from my memory now. But I just remember that it was like, okay, this is fine, but like it could be better. It was just kind of a situation where we already had prototype parts. We were already approaching suppliers for production. It was like, well, we might do a mid-year upgrade on this. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I had a couple of things I remember I was designing, and I was like, I really wish I had a couple more weeks on this. And I just didn't.
Yeah, sometimes, like there are parts that, since it's medium to small production, that, we get, let's say, a couple of 50, 100 sets in-house, and whenever they sell, then we do revisions, I mean, we had a strut bar that was a tubular strut bar. Well, in this case, the issue was that we had a manufacturer that did one of the sections of this bar, and the bar, they closed down during COVID. Then, so we decided to just make everything because partly was some other part was billet, and then that was one thing that we revised, and then we had some coilovers kits that same thing, that they were really close, but we figured we could make it a little bit better. We run out of what we need. Let's do it better for this next batch, So things like that we have done and I've dealt with, but not so far. So far, being because Renntech is a smaller company. I mean, like, it's not that small, but it's way smaller than, let's say like something like Allison or anything like that. We have some freedoms that I'm sure those companies do not have.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to hear about. And luckily, I mean, I've always heard great things from Renntech, and this is before I knew that you worked there. I knew that they worked specifically with Mercedes. I think it was Luke told me one day, he's like, yeah, he went down there, was working for Renntech, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was trying to do some more research before we had you on, and I was like, is he really the head of engineering down there? I was like, man, I didn't realize that. So.
Yeah, no, like the cool thing about that is that I get to do so many things, I get to deal with the classics, which I love, and then I get to do like the internal, like piston, crankshaft, rods, valves. I get to do things like I've done things as meaningless as chip knobs, exhaust systems, brakes, intakes, coilovers. Like the entire spectrum of things you can change in a car. I deal with it in a daily basis. I have other engineers in my team. I have a designer. We have a designer that draws things and makes it look good, and he does some CAD work too, and then together we refine it so to make sure that it works aerodynamically and it looks good. And so I have this team of people, and I have a direct influence on all these things. We have a race division. We have a race team that races in GT4 America, and we are gonna join hopefully next year as something called WRL. It's a racing series where you can have I guess production race cars, like from this stuff that you see in IMSA essentially, with people that make their own things on their house, as long as they have a power to weight ratio and they fit some regulations. So right now I'm designing a complete race car, SLK race car, and I have full control over that project. So that I mean, you don't get to do things like that everywhere,
No, you don't get to do that stuff ever unless you're in that kind of shit.
Yeah, and this is pretty crazy car actually, and I want to expand on it because it's a pretty cool project. Because the SLK is roughly the size of an NC Miata, a little bit longer, more like a Boxster, put it that way. And we put a 5.4 V8. I actually had an SLK 55 AMG, so it's essentially that car. But I moved the engine several inches back, and also changed the front suspension from McPherson to double wishbone. I grabbed the suspension of the GT, the long nose car that I talked to you before, put it there, and then copy the camber angles of the Miata actually, because it's one of the camber curve of the Miata is one of the best in the industry actually. I mean, it's a little bit better, but it's pretty close, which was a pretty funny thing to tell people over there that we are trying to replicate a Miata in here, just because the camber curve of the Miata works really well with a short wheelbase car, and this is what I mean. Even though it's longer, it's still shorter than like a GT or a car of that pedigree, of that kind. So the other thing that I had to do, because the track width was going to be a lot wider, and the size tires was going to be a lot bigger, was fix something called the Ackerman. So that way you ensure good rotation of the car. So I had to run all these numbers and do all these calculations, and anyway, just to go through the entire depth of things was pretty freaking cool. And the car is we are soon putting the front suspension in. I have to figure out the rear is a multi-link setup, but I have to figure that out to see how different it's gonna be. But yeah, hopefully that next year that car will be racing.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
That is incredible. And where do you even start with trying to determine suspension geometries on a car that you can just build from the ground up? A car that you can just be like,
Well, like with Redstone, for example, I work with a lot of race cars. I did actually a car with them that never got made, but it was pretty far along. What was going to call the RS2 based on a Daytona prototype. Daytona prototype class was so it was an open frame car with a mid-engine, and Porsche. The car that we were based on was a car from Fab Car with a Porsche Cayenne engine, but Lexus also had their own car, Ford had their own car, GM had their own car, and there are a couple numbers here and there that are pretty. I wouldn't say rule of three per se, but let's say something around those lines that there are some numbers that just make sense, so you can start with those.
mm-hmm.
And then in the case of the SLK, because we were basing the suspension out of a 190, the geometry was pretty set from that. The mounting points and things like that. Over there was where you put in, because the other car is the suspension coming from is so much wider. And in that sense, there is a ratio actually of track width to wheelbase, and there is also a difference of track width, front track width to rear track width. Usually, track width is a little bit wider in some race cars in the front and the rear, just because it has weight transfer. But then it doesn't look like that because the tires usually are so much wider in the rear because the cars are rear-wheel drive. So the offset of the tires makes it look it's actually wider on the rear, even though it's actually wider in the front. So anyway, you do all of that, and you have some chassis softwares, and you can do some numbers and some calculations, and you have to make some lines and sketches and see where everything turns and how, like, for example, when you do, for example, the Ackerman, you have a center line coming from this to the center line of the car. So from the front tires to the center line of the car, and as you turn the tires, one of the tires has to turn more than the other, and this line has to be an exact point in the rear where the I guess the rear axle is. And you see how that moves around, tells you something else, and anyway, yeah, it's a lot to do there, but
Right.
you start with okay, this is the size tire I want to use. This is the wheelbase I'm gonna have. This is where the engine is gonna be, and then you start from there. So you start with some basic numbers.
Yeah.
And also in this case rules though, because the car has to be the limit of the width of the car was limited by the mirrors. It couldn't be wider than the mirrors, I think, or was the mirror plus 3 inches. So anyway, those dimensions from the rules is what tells you the main thing, and after that you can work something out.
Well, I just can't wait to go to my next autocross to tell everybody, dude, they're building race cars based on my NC Miata. That's what I'm telling everybody.
Yeah, oh hell yeah.
This already is a race car. My clapped out, cheapest Miata on marketplace. So, if you guys want to move on to another topic, Luke and I were talking about something the other night. He and my buddy Brandon, you've not met Brandon. He's a Nissan mechanic, a friend of ours. He races with me, running autocross all the time. But we were talking, and I said, man, if I had to pick one car, I don't know what I would pick. And I was kind of torn between my Miata, my Camaro, and then actually in the center is my Xterra, believe it or not. I love my Xterra. And out of all the cars I've owned, I should have mentioned that. So I got thinking, I was all right, you know what? I don't think it's reasonable to pick one, because I either get a comfortable daily driver that can't race in my Xterra, or I get a car that my son can't ride in that is fun to race, or I just get an expensive car that I can't hardly afford to race with a baby, and being the Camaro. I was like, all right, we're picking two. So if you had to pick two cars that you've owned previously, that you would own for the rest of your life, you do whatever you want with them later on. You want to swap them, do whatever, I don't care. But I'm picking my Xterra, and My Miata. I'll go with my Miata. My son won't ride in it for now, but at least he can ride it with in the future because the Xterra can tow the Miata. So I got my off-road adventure rig, my tow rig, and the race car that's just dirt cheap. And if I ever need more power, I'll swap it. So,
True, that's an excellent question.
well, you have like 40 cars to choose from, Christian.
No, 30. I had 30 cars so far. And the Miata is actually one of them. I mean, I had a 911 and a Boxster, and I had some SLK55. I had some better cars, if you may. I still take the Miata, and people hate me for that, but it's just the truth, Like, I just like the experience. Because it's not about if it's better. I don't care. I don't give a shit the price of the perception of it is how it makes me feel, The Miata is raw and imperfect, and that's what makes it what it is. Not perfect. It's just really good at what it's good at what it is, with its limitations. That's definitely one. But the other one, oof. I like big cars. I like boats. I'm a big boat guy for sure. I like lanyards. I like being comfortable. And it's a hard question between. I had a Jaguar XJR, supercharged V8. I love that car. I just sold it because it was starting to give me a little bit of trouble. It was with the the paint with the sun. It developed a little bit of a sunspot, and I just didn't want to deal with that. It was a really unique paint. They only made like 113 of those cars.
Oh no.
For the U.S. market, so no people don't even know they exist. I figure, I could either spend a lot of money fixing this, or just sell it to somebody that have more money than me and take care of it forever. And it went to a nice older gentleman that was looking for one for a while, so that made me happy. But the car I have right now, my other new Lanyard, is a 1994 600 SEC Mercedes. It's a V12.
Mm-hmm.
It's two-door. It's a two-door coupe, but it's as big as a sedan. It's actually my S600 sedan that I had before was a long wheelbase car, and believe it or not, the thing is as long as that one, even though it's a two-door car.
Oh, no.
And it's wider. It's two. But what an amazing car! I mean, it's hands down one of the best cars ever made, and not because I own it. It's just that special. And this car is famous in the Mercedes community for that. Just the build quality. The first car ever in the world to have double glazing, first cars ever to have parking sensors, first car ever to have three-way ABS, first car ever to have soft closing doors and trunk and things like that. I mean, so many first things happened on that car. The aero, the sound insulation, the engine, the power, like everything about it is the materials, the way it closes the door. So for me, it will probably be. Actually, I would say the Mercedes and the Miata are the two cars I have right now, funny enough. Will be the one, for sure. I
Ryan,
really like them.
what are you going with? Can I take a guess?
Take a guess.
You want two of your Buicks.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Two Buicks. Both need to have leaking gas tanks.
What view?
For sure.
What view is this? Riata? Like a big Riata?
Even worse. Ron and I both bought Buick Regals for a little bit.
What kind of Regal though? Like
Regal GS 1999, supercharged.
Oh, the 3.8 supercharged?
Yep.
That's a good engine though. Like I consider it's really, really strongly Park Avenue Ultra. For a little bit. Like a 96 Ultra with that engine. Oh yeah, that would be like
The engine's great.
You gotta be
The
careful.
entire rest of the car,
not
not so much.
Big GM 3.8 V6 guys around here, Christian.
I like that engine.
My first car was a Grand Prix GTP, and listen, I'll be honest, that car was junk. 200,000 miles. I found it for sale. The guy that bought it off us hit a deer at 240,000 miles, and he was selling it because the motor and trans were still good in it. I love that car. Anyway, so Ryan, you're gonna get two Buicks, or what else would you take if it wasn't your two Buicks?
Yep. Definitely the Miata. The Miata's
Really?
great.
Why are you selling it?
It's still out there.
Okay.
It's not sold. It's still there.
So what's your second car besides the Miata?
Probably the truck, to be honest. It's the first truck. Definitely kind comes in handy.
It's
A
just
lot.
a good truck. It's hard to beat a good,
Too
reliable.
useful.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a utilitarian daily. That's why I
Yes.
love my Xterra. It's got the plastic in the back, which looks really shitty, but
But it works.
yeah, I mean, dude, I can open up the trunk and change my son's diaper right there if we're like out running around running errands, and I'm like, okay, well, and just wipe it down when I get home. Like, I can put my kid in the back. It's been covered in mud. I'm gonna tow it. I just don't. I care about it because I don't care about it.
Yep, that's how I feel about my Durango too. You know, sure it's a Durango and it's shitty, but at the same time, you know, when I needed to these players that I sell are big and they don't fit in any of these things, of course. But you know, I get like plywood to send them out, so I buy the plywood, I just throw it in there, buy these players, throw in there. When I go pick them up from the laser cutter, so you know, being able to do that, or when I was towing the Miata, for example, or the times I've been to the track. It just makes all the sense in the world.
That leads me to a question. I just keep throwing questions at you, by the way. Why are splitters made of plywood when we have all of these different plastics and sheet metal? I don't understand.
The idea is that if you hit something, it's gonna break. And I guess maybe you can sell somebody and split it again. I don't know if that's have anything to do with it, but the idea is that when you hit something hard, they're gonna break. Now, that's one way to do it, but the way I did it is that I use different grades of aluminum on my kits, meaning that I designed it so in case you hit something really hard, it's gonna shear before it bends your frame essentially. I mean, it will take an incredible amount of force to bend a frame anyway. You will have bigger problems at that point. But yeah, you know, like that's the explanation I've heard, and it makes sense to a degree. You know, because race cars don't use plywood. So before they never really used plywood before either. When carbon fiber wasn't a thing either. You know, they used aluminum. And before that, and they only use wood for in the middle of the car, but it's not for anything. It's like not actually to make downforce, merely as a safety thing for the sparks and when the cars touch the ground. You know, so they can keep a distance where they don't. What's the word I'm looking up for? When there's a point when the air stops flowing because the distance between the floor and the ground is too little, and the car jumps aggressively up. That's what happened in F1 with porpoising, you know. So when that happens, like fully, it can get really dangerous. You know, like cars can lose control and people can crash. So they have a piece of wood to make sure that just doesn't happen. You know. And also when you hit like a corp or anything like that, it protects that part and the driver and all that. So, but you know, race cars don't have splitters made out of plywood.
So that's just a street thing. That's just for kids who want splitters on the street or maybe light track use.
Yeah, sorry, for track use. I mean, it's a cheaper way. It's cheaper too. You know, like there is that. It's cheaper, and it still works. You know,
Yeah.
Nine Lives Racing does it out of that, and I don't know that. Well, I guess I was familiar with their prices because I make a similar product. But you know, the stuff is really good and it works and all that. I have huge respect for them. But they do it because it's cheaper and also you know it can take a hit and it can break in a worst case scenario. You know, so
Good point.
they do make it really stronger because they cover it with something. You know, that's why it's black.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because I've never had a splitter on any of my car. I just assumed they were like metal or plastic. I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it.
Yeah, they plywood. Just they cover it with something. Paint it with something like rubberized something. You know, I don't know exactly what it is, but you know, they look fine on real life.
Yeah. Well, we are coming up to the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you have any other topics you want to bring up? I've actually exhausted my list pretty quickly.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm about to head to bed, actually.
Ooh, big call.
I gotta be up early tomorrow. Yeah.
I don't miss those days.
Engineering, right.
What time you just start work?
What's that?
What time you get into work?
7:30.
Oof. What about you,
Yeah.
Mitch?
I go in kind of whenever I want.
That's nice.
Dude,
I get it. I should be there at 9, you know, but I usually more like 9:15
Yeah.
or 9:30, but I should be there at 9.
Yeah,
But
in December I switched over from automotive to aerospace defense essentially, and I go in around 8 o'clock, but sometimes 7:30, sometimes 8:30, and then it's really laid back. If you guys are in engineering, because I actually have a bunch of engineers following me now after some of my satire stuff, highly consider aerospace engineering. Good gig, thoroughly enjoy it. Well, I definitely see myself staying there for a long time. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I have my sister's ex-husband. He was an aerospace engineer, and I have a cousin actually. He's the only other family member I have here in the U.S. He's actually a funny story because he's cousin of my. It's not really my cousin. It's my mom's cousin because his mom was my great grandfather's last kid. My great grandfather was like 80s when he had her. So even though he's my mom's cousin and my mom is 60 something, and he's a little bit older than I am, we are one generation off. But anyway,
Wow.
he works for Boeing in Seattle, I think. You know, he does like he does satellites related things. You know, that's all I know. He's cat. You know, he's not much for words. Let's put it that way. So awkward kid, but really smart, and he I want to say he got married not that long ago, and well, anyway, he's also living the American dream. so yeah, but it's in the other corner of the country.
Yeah. Well, Christian, I think that's most of the topics we had to cover today. So I really appreciate you coming on, and it's a lot of fun talking to you. And I'm excited for this one. Hopefully the audio is good, so I should be able to upload this in audio format as well, and probably go up tomorrow. So on that note, Ryan, I'll let you get to bed, and Christian, I'll let you get back to whatever it is you gotta get done tonight. So thank you guys very much.
Yep. Nice talking to you, Christian.
Yeah.
See you around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pleasure to talk to you again after all these years.
Yeah.
Same Mitch. And thank you so much for the invite. It's been fun.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys.
Goodbye.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye.